The world is facing a problem. A new generation of leaders are beginning to take their first steps into the world utterly alone, causing a mental health crisis. We are here to raise awareness for this issue through a podcast for teens by teens. This is Mind Over Matter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jacinta Taro. I am a podcast writer and a host, and this is the Mind and Matter Over Matter podcast. In this episode, we will be discussing common mental health struggles and issues while also mentioning how talking about mental health should be normalized. Mental health is often taboo to talk about, but this episode, we will be breaking down how to have open communication and how to feel comfortable talking about your mental health.
Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia Fanders. I'm a sophomore. I am the podcast producer, and I'm a host on this episode, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, my name is Alina. My pronouns are she, her. I'm in 10th grade and a part of the graphic design team as well as today's host.
So why don't we start off with the question, why mental health needs to be normalized and talked about openly? So personally, mental health is such an important topic, especially in our generation. And I think the stigma behind it shouldn't be like uncomfortable to be around. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be something that we are uncomfortable talking about, especially because it's like we struggle with it every day.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that the stigma behind mental health is completely unnecessary and unreasonable. And I think that we definitely need to work on getting rid of that because I feel like talking to people about your mental health can certainly aid it in some way and help you to get over it. And I think what the problem is, especially in our generation, is that we really never talk about it. Even though I feel like a lot of teens are very stressed nowadays. And I feel like part of that is because we never talk about it and we never really try to work through it together, even though we're all going through the same thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like you shouldn't be embarrassed to go out and like tell them how you feel about your mental health and everything because like there's so many people that can relate to you and there's so many people going through the same things. So sharing your own experience can also encourage them to talk about themselves and get more open about their feelings.
As well, like it should also be considered as something like your physical health because it can be very damaging to someone, and just keeping it all in when you can just share with other people who share your experiences, like Alina said, it's definitely detrimental to our youth, and it should be considered as something very important, like not just something like on the outside, because it's like we go through a lot on the inside as well.
Yeah, I love what you said about the physical health kind of thing because I feel like mental health and physical health are two things that are very interconnected. And I feel like if your physical health or your mental health is not doing well, the other will be affected. And I feel like that's really important to note because a lot of people think that they're not interconnected at all and they really have no relation on each other, but it is like obviously it is proven that exercise and getting outside is very important to your mental health, and it's such an important factor in mental health, especially in teenagers nowadays, since we really haven't been getting outside because of our computers and getting so caught up in our homework and APs and all the stress that we now have nowadays. So I think that's definitely really important.
Absolutely. Like our mental health includes our emotional and our social well-being. So it does affect like how we think or how we act on an everyday basis. And it determines like how we handle stress and how we relate to others. So by having like a strong mental health, I feel like we are enabling our bodies to get like a stronger physically and allowing ourselves to like grow both internally and externally.
We are taking a short break and we will be back soon.
Yeah, so while we were talking about like being open to others, how are we able to have these open discussions about mental health, and how are we able to have these good communications with others?
Well, I think it's really important to talk to someone not only that you like don't know. I feel like that is kind of counterproductive, but I think you really have to talk to someone you're comfortable with, that you know, perhaps your friends, a teacher, a guidance counselor, pretty much anyone that you're comfortable talking to, because you're really not allowed socially, I guess, to really say what you feel in an environment where you really don't know the other person. And I think you really have to be able to not just tell your own feelings, you have to share and you have to be able to connect with the other person. And I think a way to do that is not only connect with someone that like perhaps is an adult, but also someone who like is your age and that is going through the same thing that you are. Because a lot of people now, like a lot of teens, feel like they're the only ones who really have these problems, and that truly isn't the case. And I feel like what's really important is for all of us teens to talk to each other about how we're feeling and try and get past this, as this is a really difficult time, especially during COVID.
Yes, and please know that whatever you're going through is valid. There is no like there's nothing you're doing wrong. It's just simply hard to get through, and talking to someone will always be a positive impact. They will try to understand you as much as they can. It's very important that we let out these struggles that we have, because again, like keeping it inside is will only hurt you in the long run.
Yup, this is another short break. You know the drill.
And going into you trying to let out your struggles on other people, also we have to also learn how to understand others. So how in being a mental health advocate, how can we do that and educate ourselves?
Well, I think it's really important to be cautious about the kind of language we use and how we say things and communicate with each other. I mean, I think that mental health is often talked about negatively as if it's a problem. Obviously, it is a problem. See, this is what I mean about language, but pretty much we have to make sure that we're not talking about mental health as if it's something wrong with the person, because it truly isn't. It's something that we live through every day, all of us, even if some people don't admit it. And I think that it's really important to choose your words carefully and make sure you're saying the right things in order not to discourage people from sharing.
So we can all be like a mental health advocate because like they're like heroes without capes, right? So we can work every day to share our own stories and help those who are struggling and like take risks and show our vulnerability by telling like our truth in hopes of encouraging someone else and supporting people who are going through this mental health struggles and issues, and encouraging schools or local governments or anyone to like offer more mental health services and have more campaigns to help spread the message.
Yeah, I like especially what you said about like making sure that schools know to talk about mental health, because I think that it definitely is something that needs to be addressed at schools. I know that recently my school's been doing SEL days and days where we can really just focus on ourselves, and I think that that is definitely a step in the right direction. I definitely think that that is a good idea, but I think there really needs to be more done at schools. I heard that like you really need to discuss these things with guidance counselors, with school officials, with all these different people, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page and nobody is too overwhelmed or stressed. Because when you're overwhelmed and stressed, you really can't get things done. And I feel like, especially for me, like I feel like whenever I'm too stressed, you can really feel the burnout. Like it's definitely very difficult. And I feel like talking to people about that is really, really important in order to get over it and try and solve some different problems. I feel like school is one of the reasons why teens are so stressed nowadays. And bringing that up with schools is important because then they can use that feedback and they can change things about their school system in order to make like healthier mentally teens for the future.
Yeah, and speaking about schools, I feel like they see mental health as such a sensitive topic and really hard to talk about. I know that my school has mentioned that like quite a few times, like they're like, oh, you could speak to your guidance counselor and stuff, but at the end of the day, I feel like they still see it as something very sensitive and hard to talk about. And so I think we as an advocate, we need to show schools and districts that it's okay to talk about these feelings and your mental health in general, because again, like you said, Olivia, school is probably high schoolers or like teenagers' main source of stress and this buildup of mental health. And encouraging schools and encouraging like others in general to talk about these topics is very important for us in general.
Yeah, I think the mentality at schools right now is very, very wrong because what they're trying to do is kind of say, okay, if you're having mental health issues, you should go talk to your guidance counselor. And while that's all well and good, I feel like what's most important is fostering the environment where the students can talk to each other about it. Because I feel like talking to a guidance counselor is one thing, but talking to people who have the exact same issues as you is another thing entirely, and it can really like help you get over it more than it would like if you were just talking to a guidance counselor. And I think that if you're just trying to hide people away who are trying to, deal with their mental health, I feel like that is once again very counterproductive because you're acting like it's a problem. And while it is a problem, it isn't a problem of the individual. It's a problem of a lot of the systems we have in the United States and across the world nowadays, and it's a problem in the stigma that is against mental health.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely needs to be put more light on it. Okay, so I think that's concludes our episode for today. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. From all of us on the Mind Over Matter team and the Hudson County Youth Leadership Council, thank you for listening, and we hope to see you next time. Don't forget to tune in to our next episode. Please check out our Twitter and Instagram pages. This is Mind Over Matter.